As you may recall, last winter I got this Kovea Cupid butane heater, and it worked really well for me. But then this little guy kept showing up in my ads. It looked small, and you can cook on it, so I had to give it a try. Price-wise, they're pretty similar, between $80 and $90, depending on where you get them. Size-wise, at first glance, the Sunflower seems so much smaller. But once you include the external fuel canister, I would wager to say they take up about the same amount of space. Part of the reason I chose the Cupid is because it takes the same butane fuel canisters that I use for all my other camping devices. The Sunflower actually takes butane-propane mix canisters. So I had to buy an adapter so I can stick with my usual type of fuel. Some people will feel the need to point out that butane will cease to vaporize at freezing temperatures and thus no longer ignite.
Oh, I hear it now.
However, I don't camp in that sort of cold, and I try my best to keep the Forerunner interior much warmer than the exterior. But you go with whatever fuel works best for you. A nice thing about the Cupid is that it has a single knob that controls the fuel output and the ignition. The Sunflower has a knob for controlling fuel output, but ignition is entirely up to you. I don't have any sort of scientific means of measuring it, but I feel like the heat output for both is pretty similar. Either would be totally adequate for a tent, SUV, or maybe a small van.
Cool. Or I should say hot.
However, both manufacturers warn you not to use them in an enclosed space such as a vehicle. But if you choose to do so, it is absolutely vital that you have adequate ventilation. Only run them for short periods of time and never leave them unattended. I also recommend carrying a carbon monoxide detector and a fire extinguisher. These heaters have been fairly equal, but there is that one factor to consider: cook mode. I tried it out a couple of times during my most recent trip.
Oh yes, it feels like heat. All right.
The bento pot was a perfect fit. But the stovetop pie iron was a little too slick and the land a bit unlevel.
And just like that, it slid off. Not sure if it's any better.
The wind is kicking up.
We're almost there over here. Yeah, pretty close.
We've got a simmer going on both at almost 5 minutes in. Alright, the record shows 6 minutes for a boil on the Joulle. Oh, and it looks like the Firemaple's right behind. 6.5 minutes. Ooh, we got a good boil over here. And we got a pretty good boil going on. 7 minutes in on the Firemaple. Oh yeah. Only 30 seconds behind. All in all, I found the sunflower's cooking capabilities maybe not ideal, but definitely capable. It certainly would be a viable option if you're interested in minimizing your gear or in having a secondary or backup cooking device in your kit. If you only use butane and you just need a heater and you prefer simplicity and ease, the Cupid might be more for you. If you're trying to minimize your gear, you love a multitasker, and maybe you use different fuel types, perhaps give the Sunflower a shot. I figured while we're talking about keeping warm, I would also update you on my electric blanket situation. One of the first things I bought for winter camping is this heated throw. I was in a hurry, so I just picked it up from Target. Since it is just a regular household blanket, it does take up a good deal of energy. And supposedly, these newfangled controllers can be problematic for some power banks. So when I got my Temu haul, I included a 12-volt car throw. It's a little smaller than my old one and not as soft. And since you can't remove the plug, it's not washable, only wipeable. However, it only sips energy. In the sleeping bag is the little Temu 12-volt blanket. It's more like a throw. So that is in there, and I've got the cord running out. I unzipped the end and it goes, whoopsie, I'm plugged in. It goes to the EcoFlow, which is down there. It's not plugged in right now because it has no switch. When it's plugged in, it's on. You know, that is it. And apparently that's better for power banks. I don't know. The whole thing is a mystery. There we go. That is pulling 30, just under 40 watts. Ooh, that is an instant kick of heat under my butt. Yeah, okay, that'll do. Oh yeah, that is really warm under my butt. I think I'm just gonna have to run it in for a little bit and turn it off because it's almost too warm. I'm not mad.